Ha 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 ha, this is a great topic, isn't it? Oh man, I can't believe that La Presse actually went out there and wrote this article. I can't believe this was actually said by the guy himself. So, if you have not already read the title, if you can't look at the thumbnail, you can't do any of that stuff. We're talking today about the Montreal Canadiens, and we're talking about goaltending. We're going over not the guys that are already here, like Allen, like Montembeault, like Carey Price. We're going over guys the Montreal Canadiens might actually have as potential options for them heading into the future, and one of them is a player who, unfortunately, has not actually played his best in Montreal. The Habs had some pretty good games against this guy in the past, but it's a name that a lot of people are familiar with. He is a five-time Stanley Cup finalist? I can't believe I just said that. 3-time winner, 5-time finalist. It's Marc-Andre Fleury. Okay, wait, I want to get over semantics first, because I just said that and it doesn't sound right. Okay, so he had 4 Stanley Cup Finals appearances with the Penguins. He was the main starter in 2017. He was the main starter in 2008 and 2009. In 2016, though, he was not the main starter. That was Matt Murray. Fleury only played 2 games in that postseason, so I don't know if you could say he legitimately went to the finals himself. I mean, he was there. He was on the team that went to the finals, but regardless, he also went to the finals with Vegas in 2018, so there you go, 3 straight years in a row of Fleury being a part of a finalist team. That's just wild to me, man. Absolutely wild. And when talking about the Minnesota Wild, this is a team that took on Fleury and his services for the end of the 2022 season, where he posted up a .910 save percentage and a .274 goals against in 11 games played. He also suited up for the team in the playoffs, getting a .906 save percentage in 5 games against the St. Louis Blues. A lot of fans would go out there and say, okay, it was kind of weird how the entire goaltending thing was handled in the playoffs. You had Cam Talbot, who was honestly okay, and you went out and got Fleury, and you started Fleury all these games, and then you started Talbot at the end there. And Fleury, I get it, he was a Vezina winner from last season. He had a .928 save percentage in 36 games and a .198 goals against, which is phenomenal for Vegas. But there was the very strange way everything ended with Fleury with the Wild. He's coming off a contract where he was making $7 million a year for the past 3 seasons. He currently is a free agent, and there will be some suitors going out there looking for this guy because of the body of work he has done. Plus, the fact that he's legitimately a good goaltender still. He's 37 years old, so he definitely does not have a lot of time left, but Fleury still is a capable enough player to still have some gas left in the tank. And we've seen that over the past few weeks. We have seen comments talking about the hypothetical Fleury destinations, whether or not he himself would want to go to these teams here or there. But as we said off the top, it's an article from La Presse that went out there and really cemented everything for one Montreal Canadiens club. Montreal, translated from French into English by the way, could be an option for Marc-Andre Fleury. This article was written by Jean-Francois Totonio from 2 days ago at 2:03 p.m. For the first time in a decade, a number 1 goalie position could open up in Montreal. At the same time, and for the first time in his career, Marc-Andre Fleury will be a free agent. Is the scenario running through the head of the Quebecer? The Canadiens could be an option, Fleury agreed this Friday morning in Sorel-Tracy. Before continuing quickly, but it's not yet. Carey finished the season. I wish him well to come back next year. The reason they were getting this interview with Fleury done was because there was the golf tournament organized by, oh man, I'm gonna really butcher this, Cégep de Sorel-Tracy Foundation. Anthony Beauvillier of the Islanders and François Beauchemin of the Ducks organization were also there, so it's cool to see Beauchemin, Fleury, and Beauvillier all there at the same time. The 37-year-old goalie has already mentioned wanting to play at least one other season, with the choice of his next destination becoming based on a very few specific criteria, starting with the comfort of his family. It was difficult leaving Vegas, he says, of his 3 children. They had made friends in elementary school. Then we moved to Chicago. The same thing. At the end of the year, they still cry. They lost their friends. They lost their school. If we could have some stability, that would be good. Now, I will say, before we go over onto the other quotes from Fleury himself, this was a pretty big deal that was made when he was traded initially from Vegas to Chicago for what was essentially nothing. He made it clear that, yeah, this is a good place to be. I like Vegas. My family likes Vegas. I want to stay here in Vegas. And then they made the decision to go with Robin Lehner over Fleury, leaving Fleury to find out about the trade from a Twitter thread, which definitely is not all too appropriate and has been one of the main issues that the Vegas Golden Knights have been exhibiting the past few years. Just the overall level of communication they have with their players is definitely not at the level you would expect from a professional hockey organization. But Fleury went over to Minnesota after leaving Chicago as well. It appears his kids did not have a good time with that decision. I want to take my time to make a decision as to where I play next. But at the same time, it shouldn't be too long because once I sign in another city, I have to find a house, a school. We have to find the perfect place for all of us. Marc-Andre Fleury says it himself. There's not a long amount of time for me to play still. What workload do I want to carry out by the end? I love playing, of course. Being on the bench is not fun all the time, but I don't feel like I need to play 60, 65 games like I used to. Sharing the net with another goaltender for me, it's okay. It's good for the body too to stay healthy. It helps to get through the schedule. This article then goes over into a big hypothetical saying, if Carey Price hung up the leggings before next season, we would have to find a way to support Jake Allen. If, of course, Samuel Montembeault does not sign a new contract, and Caden Primo is not ready to take the plunge despite sublime series in the American Hockey League. It's also been established that Fleury wouldn't say no to sharing the duties in goal, much like he did with Robin Lehner. But there's another criteria that will tip the balance: the desire to win. Now. A place where I could win games is always more fun. I love my time in Chicago, but it's hard to lose so much, and to lose so often. It's tough on the morale. And so even though Fleury says all this stuff about family and everything, there probably is somewhat of a familiarity with the Montreal, Quebec area because, of course, Fleury is from Quebec. And if you were to go out there and say that, hey, if Fleury signs a contract in Montreal, this could be the last team he plays for, his kids could grow up in another French-speaking environment in Quebec where his dad is from, that could be a pretty good transition, and they could settle in for the rest of their lives. But the desire to win is a pretty important part there, because if Fleury is saying, yeah, I don't really want to be a part of a rebuilding team again, then Montreal, unfortunately, does not look like they would be on his radar. However, that possibility is not completely closed off, as we agreed that the context in which the Canadiens will evolve in the coming years would not really be conducive to the happiness of a Marc-Andre Fleury. He didn't talk to Ken Hughes anyway, since he wouldn't be allowed to do so as a member of the Wild. Not yet, Fleury adds with his indelible smile. And so, this idea, it kind of makes me chuckle on the inside, but at the end of the day, I don't really think we're going to see this, but let's assume for all hypothetical situations out there in the multiverse that Carey Price does retire, he does leave, he does get LTIR'd, and the Montreal Canadiens need another goaltender. Montembeault might not be the guy, Allen is going to stick around, but you still need somebody else. Is Marc-Andre Fleury somebody that you would be interested in signing? Honestly, for me, I do feel like a lot of the circumstances that Marc-Andre Fleury listed were fulfillable with the Montreal Canadiens, with, of course, the exception of the Canadiens not being a winning team. But other than that, the Montreal Canadiens don't really have too much to lose by getting a goalie like Fleury, right? Sure, he's a good goalie, and you probably don't want to get too many wins this season for Connor Bedard's sake, but you just traded away Shea Weber. That's a lot of money coming off of your contract books, and the Montreal Canadiens are likely not going to be a cap team anyway, so this is a guy that if you sign for 1 or 2 years maybe, and give him somewhat of a name-your-price kind of contract, I can't really think of too many negatives in this situation. If the Canadiens are on board, and if Fleury would potentially be on board, this would make for some good meme material, not gonna lie. It would cap off a pretty interesting career for Marc-Andre Fleury, being so dominant in the late 2000s, early 2010s, to eventually becoming the face of Vegas, getting traded for nothing, and then ending off his career back in his hometown province. That sounds pretty cool, and if it does happen, of course, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but it's just highly unlikely in my opinion, I don't really think you're losing out on too much because Caden Primo has shown off time and time again that I really just don't know how I feel about how confident I am in his NHL goal-stopping abilities. And besides, Marc-Andre Fleury only said this entire hypothetical Montreal thing in the unlikely situation that Carey Price just up and away leaves, retires, LTIRs permanently, etc., etc. So, Fleury to Montreal is not going to happen, but in the odd case that another few stars align that make this possible, I would not really be too upset if that happened. So, talk in the comments all your thoughts about Marc-Andre Fleury. Where do you think he's going to sign next? He's already said that he wants to play. If Montreal is that team, what do you think about that? What do you think about Carey Price and his future? What do you think about Fleury potentially filling that gap for the next year, maybe 2 years or whatever? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Virtual Trolls 99. And bye.